Hello, guys. Hello. I hope I'm audible to all of you. Guys, can you hear me?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for joining, guys. So we will just start in a minute's time. I was actually expecting more people to join, but somehow couldn't see much people joining. So that's okay, but we'll continue with the session. So, guys, let me tell you about the agenda of today's session. We started with a journey on in terms of completing the Six Sigma concepts, which we cover till the measure phase. However, I also got a lot of requests from people that they are already Six Sigma trained and certified, and they are kind of struggling in terms of how to prepare for the interview. So therefore, I started with this new series, and I'll continue that as well, which we started in terms of Six Sigma knowledge and practice. I'll continue that, but I am parallelly starting this one as well, so that we can also take the benefit of this. So before I start, is there any question? Is there any other expectation anybody has? Because in today's session, I am going to tell you about my experience of what it helped me in order to crack Six Sigma interviews. I've been conducting a lot of interviews as well. So therefore, I know what kind of questions should be asked. I can also share what kind of questions can be asked from you as well. So that if you're preparing for your Six Sigma interview, if you are already into that role, or if you want to get into that role, this session is going to be very helpful for you. So any question anybody has? Any expectation anybody has? Okay, so let's start with Roy. You want to say something? Were you trying to say something?
No. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Okay. So guys, I don't have any presentation for today's session. It will normally be a kind of a tip and tricks. I would try to use Microsoft Excel or Word to kind of explain what I'm trying to say. But you probably need to ask questions in terms of taking the clarity out of it. This session will be recorded and they will be there on YouTube as well, so you can watch the recording later as well. If you feel that you have more questions, so you can ask me later as well, or you can put it in the comment section and I will answer that also. So that's how we are going to do that. So let me just use the some Excel sheet to help you understand some of the part that I will talk about. So and guys, I will make this session interactive as well, so that I would be asking you certain questions. So my vision is that I will not have only one session. In this first session, I will tell you some of the tricks which are required, some of the things which an interviewer looks for during the Six Sigma interview, and then probably my agenda is also to kind of get some role plays wherein I will ask questions, kind of role plays wherein I'll take some mock interviews as well. Uh, Not in today's session, maybe in the upcoming session, because I want you to be first ready with what is looking for. Most of you are already doing it. I'm sure you would also be able to contribute to it, and that's how we will have a collective learning. So please request that let's make this session interactive. Ask questions, contribute to what you already know, so that we get some meaningful information after the end of today's session. All right, so let's start, guys. So for any Six Sigma interview, there are two things which are very important, which an interview always looks at. First thing that he's always looking for is the Six Sigma. So I'm writing it on Excel as well, so that you can see as well, because I don't have any content presentation on it, but yeah, I can share my learnings. So one is the Six Sigma concepts. It is what he's looking for. And second, he's looking for the storyboarding. So when I'm saying storyboard, he basically wants to know the practical part of it.
Simar, are you sharing something?
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the screen share did not started.
Now it is okay for me.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So, guys, I was talking about an interview when evaluates people for a Six Sigma black belt role. He primarily look at two things, right? Although there are other aspects as well, which is part and parcel of every interview, whether it's Six Sigma interview or non-Six Sigma interview. But two key things which distinguish Six Sigma from any other interview is the first is a Six Sigma concept, and second is the storyboard. Storyboard is your project's accomplishment that you have completed. So on basis, because that's what I also do when I conduct interviews, I look these concepts from a person. And third, which is now very important nowadays, guys, is the domain knowledge. And when I'm saying domain knowledge, let's say you are applying for a finance role, or you're applying for a banking domain role, you're banking for a healthcare or an insurance. So you need to be aware of certain universal transformation journeys as well, some transformation projects, some case studies, some benchmarking as well, so that you must have implemented it as well, right? So it is not that you need to have a very good knowledge in terms of what an operations guy needs to have, but at least basic knowledge one needs to have of the domain, and some benchmarking of the digital transformation tools deployed, right? So I'll name few of what I know as well, and that's what the interview looks at. So for example, you're applying for an insurance role, so you need to be aware certain domain specific insurance tools which have been deployed in various parts, so that you can also talk about it. So let's talk about one by one, all of them, and Six Sigma concepts, guys. Every interviewer wants to look at that whether you are aware of Six Sigma concepts or not. So every time when he asks you a certain question, let's say he asks you what is a project charter. So the answer should not be only a definition. The answer should be that I should be able to give a example out of it. So when I'm talking about Six Sigma concept, so questions, answers, guys, a request if you can put yourself on mute, please. Mayank. Okay, so answer should be supported by an example. So for example, if somebody asks you what is a project charter, so you should not answer what project charter is. You should always also give an example of how project charter can be helpful, right? So that the interview shouldn't have to think about whether the person has only a theoretical knowledge or a practical knowledge. Okay, so first point which we'll always keep in mind is whenever a question is being asked, we should proactively give an example without the interview being asking. Okay, so that is the first thing that you should always keep in mind. Second, during any question which interview is asking, you should be able to articulate in terms of root cause. Okay, so root cause being the best you'll have to talk about. So whenever you're trying to answer any question, your focus should be that you are a person who can solve business problems, who can get to the root causes as well. Okay, so in your entire conversations, you need to make the interviewer person understand that yes, you are not only a typical black belt or a green belt, you are the ones who can help contribute business in terms of solving the root cause as well. Okay, and most important, measurable statements. When you are talking, so your statement should not be a very generic. It should always have certain data to back about. If you, for example, if there's any question to be asked, that let's say what is repeatability or what is reproducibility. Or let's say if there's any question being asked on what is brainstorming, right? So you answer that question with the help of an example. You also talk about, you link it with a root cause as well. And then you'll also talk about some measurable statement about brainstorming, right? So you should also talk about in brainstorming, when we do the brainstorming, we identify certain causes, and out of that 20 to 30% of causes we prioritize using cause and effect matrix, right? So every question which is being asked should always have these three: example, linkage of that answer with the root cause, and a measurable statement when you are talking about. Any questions so far, guys? I'm just talking about very generic stuff, which I'm sure you must be aware. But if there's any question, any further explanation required, you need to tell me. If you ask,
Yeah, Simar, I'd be more interested into like how would you link that a root cause being applied to that example, and
okay,
of course like the thing.
definitely,
I mean, elaborate on it later. We can.
yeah, I'll talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
but from a concept standpoint, if there's any question anybody has, please let me know. Okay. Another point which is very important is the methodology. Guys, when we go for a Six Sigma interviews, are, and this should be overlapped with the storyboard as well, but I want to touch upon this as well, wherein there could be a question during the interview. The interview can ask about which particular methodology you've been using a lot for Six Sigma implementation. And as we know, there are various methodologies being available. We use DMAC, we use DMADV, we use PDCA, we use lean methodology, we use DFSS, we use agile methodology, right? So methodology, whenever you answer a question, it should not sound that this answer is being given by a non-Six Sigma person. When I'm saying non-Six Sigma, I mean to say the person is not trained or certified. Your answer should always back up with a methodology as well. So when I'm saying a methodology, which means that you are a person who is very structured. Why are we using Six Sigma? Even before Six Sigma, we were solving problems, right? But with the help of Six Sigma, what we have learned is that it is a structural method of solving a problem in a step-by-step method with the help of data analysis. So when you answer that question, keep in mind the interviewer wants to know about that this person has certain methodology. So while giving answers, it is not necessarily that your answer has to be DMAC. Every answer has to be DMAC, but just try fitting any one of them in between, right? I'll take few examples and then you'll be able to understand. Okay. Let's say if the interviews ask you, what is control chart? Okay. So you should, when you talk about control charts, okay, you should always clearly talk about, first of all, you need to be very, very clear on the concept that what is control chart. Then you should specify that control chart is one of the 7 quality tools, which is part of the analyze, which can be used in the control phase, right? So you're linking a methodology wherein the interview would feel, okay, this guy is very well versed where to place this methodology, where to place this particular tool, right? If the interviewer asks, what is FMEA? So you can say FMEA is a powerful tool which can be used during the improve phase, or this tool can be used outside Six Sigma also to identify potential risk in the process. What this would help you is the interview would feel that this person is not only using FMEA during a project, he's the one who knows it beforehand. Tools like Pareto, guys, even though when we were not Six Sigma trained certified, and people who are in quality can relate better, we were using Pareto before that also, right? So make the interviewer aware that you are already using this tool, you are already using this tool, before even Six Sigma, before your Six Sigma journey was started, right? So therefore, methodology plays a very, very important role when you narrate your Six Sigma concepts. Okay, so these are the ones, these are the four areas, guys, I would like to recap. First, so I'm talking about a broader category. The interview rates you on the Six Sigma concepts, the storyboard, accomplishment, Six Sigma projects on that particular domain, and rest other aspects which is part of every Six Sigma interview, like your confidence, your behavior, your articulation, your thought process, your scenario building, your team handling skills, etc., etc., right? That is something which I'll not talk about because that is applicable for everything. Now let's deep dive on the Six Sigma concepts, and then I'll get into storyboard and domain knowledge in just a while. So let's take one example, and I'll try to fit in all of them. And this session is being recorded, so you can watch it as many times as you can. I'll upload it on YouTube, and that's how you can see it as well. So let's take one example, and then you can relate to it. So guys, how many people out of here are already Six Sigma trained, certified, or maybe doing training? We can just.
I am.
So Roy is.
I am black belt.
Roy is
Pawan is
certified.
black
Vineet.
belt.
Okay, just put it on the chat so that I know how many people are, because then only I'll use a certain example. If people are only green belt certified, then I'll take example of green belt. If I can see people are black belt certified, then I can take some examples as well. And that's why I'm asking this question. So how many people are at least a green belt trained or have a knowledge about it? So Jatin is green belt certified, Roy is certified, Vineet is certified. What about others, guys? Ashutosh, Anushka, Rekha, Sam. Pawan is a black belt certified. Jatin is green belt. Okay, so it seems people are certified, but Ashutosh, I'm sure you must be trained as well. So you must have basic knowledge about what sort of tools are there. Yeah. So let's talk about one of the tool. So let's say uh, if I want to talk about what is process capability. Okay. So what is process capability? If the interview asks you this question, what is process capability? You should not jump to the answer. You should ask a question to the interviewer. Do you mean that I should talk about process capability for discrete data or for continuous data? Guys, in Six Sigma, if you are aware, the types of data plays a very, very important role, and different types of data have a different types of test, right? So you should, when you ask this question from the interviewer, two things will already be answered. First, that you are talking about a methodology, and second, you have a good knowledge about data, right? So the interviewer first impression would be like, oh, this guy has already got some understanding. Okay, so let's say the interview say, okay, talk about discrete data. So your answer should be, in discrete data, while doing a process capability, we measure process capability in terms of DPU and DPO. DPU stands for defects per unit, and DPO stands for defects per opportunity. When our data is discrete, we calculate that to calculate process capability. Process capability formula is DPU formula is uh, units divided defects divided by total units, and DPO formula is defects divided by total opportunities, and DPO formula is defects divided by total opportunities into 1 million. So when you have explained this to the interviewer, now the interview is aware that this guy has concepts on his tips. He's not even just talking about it. He has a good understanding about it. So what I have done is I have kind of talk about it. Now, second thing is you should be supported by an example. Now, while talking to the interviewer, because when you're talking to the interviewer, you're not sharing his you're not sharing your screen, but what you can do is you can take a very small example and tell him about it. That, for example, if I'm doing a Six Sigma project, now in the measure phase, I should know what my process capability is and why it is required, so that at the end of the project, I can see whether my DPU has increased or not, my DPU has improved or not. Okay, so let's say my, and you can say, you can just give a random number. So let's say my DPU is, let's say during measure phase is 0.2, and now I will be relating, or I will be taking a performance maybe towards the end in the improve phase to see whether it has increased or not. So in the improve phase, I will again track it and see 0.6. So from this, I would be able to compare and say that my process capability has improved. Okay, this is a powerful tool and can be very, very helpful, because this would help us to see the process capability. And during the analyze phase, when we do the root cause analysis and we get to the solution, we would be able to improve our process capability. So you know what I've done? I have answered the question with everything. I have answered the question with an example. I have linked this with the root cause. I have measured it with a statement, and I have talked about the methodologies. So these four things I've touched upon while giving the answers. Now you can relate anything with it, and you will be able to get this same answer. So let me do another part of it. Okay, now this time, guys, you should ask me a question. You should ask me any question from a Six Sigma perspective which you think should be understood to everybody, and I will try to fit this in this four parts, wherein your answer would be that much strong, where an interview will 50% feel that, okay, I need this guy, he's been doing really good. So any question from your side, guys, which you think I should add? Guys, you're Six Sigma green belt certified, black belt certified. I expect you to ask some questions from me, or you should have certain questions in your mind. Guys, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
So ask any question, and I'll try to answer this in this four way.
Is it possible to give an example to relate lean lean methodology to answer these four questions?
Yeah. So ask me a question, then I'll link it with. You ask me any Six Sigma related question.
Like as you said that any of these methodologies may suffice for the interview. For example, TMAC, DMAT-B, PDC, Lean, DFSS, Agile, etc. So, is it possible to relate specifically lean metrics to answer all these four, to relate to all these four questions that you have marked in yellow color?
Yeah, we can do that. So instead of TMAC methodology, we can link it with a lean methodology, but you need to ask a question from me on any Six Sigma concept. Like what is FMEA, what is this, what is this, what is this, then only I'll be able to answer it, right? So I'm asking you guys a question to ask me.
Sir, one question just I want to know. This the gauge repeatability and the reproducibility.
Okay.
What is the criteria for the acceptance? Just one question. Yes.
So I think I should also tell you what are the top question which is being asked. I think that is something which you might not be aware, and that's why you were not able to ask me questions instead of doing it. So I'll talk about repeatability and reproducibility. So let me do one thing. I'll answer that question in just a while. Let me tell you what are the top big questions from a concept standpoint which the interview wants to know. Okay. First question he would like to know, not first in an order, but first few questions. What are the 7 quality tools? Second question he can ask is, what is gauge R&R? He can also ask you a question on what is the difference. These are the top questions that the interview asks, but he can ask you anything. Majority people ask this question because this is where majority of confusion lies. What is the difference between confidence level and confidence interval? What is regression? What is FMEA? What is hypothesis testing? What is control charts? Okay, so these are the 6-7 questions. And when I'm saying what is hypothesis testing, the interview also would like to know about the different types of tests when your y is continuous and x is continuous, or could be any scenario. So due to which the interview wants to know about it. Now these are the typical questions which interview wants to know, wherein it covers the majority of the stuff. So I could not cover anything from the define phase, but yeah, so he can talk about how to make effective project charters. Now, while answering these questions, we need to keep in mind the same concept. Methodology, whether it's a lean or Six Sigma. Okay, let's say if I ask a question on what is Timbers, or what are the different types of waste? This is a lean question. Or what is 5Y analysis? Interview can also ask you, and this is where you have to be very, very careful, guys. If the interview asks you, what is your favorite tool? Now here you have 100% opportunity to shine, right? Because he's throwing a ball on you, and if you say, let's say FMEA, because that is on the top of your mind, maybe you may have heard it from somewhere yesterday, or you may be part of it. Now the interview would ask you to explain it. Now if you explain it using these 4 things, he will be very happy. But here, if you make a mistake, here if you could not convince him, he will make up his mind and then he will not continue. Even though if he continue, he has already made his mind. He's not going to hire you. So if he's giving you an opportunity to talk about any of the tool which is your favorite, then you have to be very, very confident about it. Then you can't take a risk. So in that particular case, you should thoroughly study about it, couple of tools which you are very confident about, and should be able to explain it to the interviewer. Any questions so far, guys? Anything you want to know so far?
All good, Simon.
Okay, so guys, I think we should re-log in, because it's a 40-minute Zoom, and then this session will get over in the next 1 minute. So instead of starting now, I don't want an interruption between when you hear the recording on YouTube. So I want to call it a I want to try it again, and then we can reconnect. Okay, so please re-log in.